What's up, guys? 10.2, it's got another release date. It's almost upon us. It's time to look at what the new recipes are going to be bringing in the sort of the final form of the PTR. This is all of the new recipes. There's a ton of them, and we're going to go through them really quickly. Alchemy gets 2 new potions. Both of them seem, the Potion of Withering Dreams seems completely useless. The Dreamwalker's Healing Potion might be good, but I feel like generally you're going to want all of your healing right away whenever you use a healing potion. I don't foresee these two being particularly useful at all, to be honest. Blacksmithing, we get 1 new piece of pre-embellished gear. This seems like a tank/healer effect, particularly a tank effect since you need to take damage. No idea if this is strong enough or how strong this shield effect is. It could be either the go-to for all tanks or it's just going to be completely useless. And then you have a full set of entry-level PvP gear. Enchanters get 3 new recipes, which are essentially 1-to-1 replacements for the old crests. Interestingly enough, they require our good old friend Mr. Dracothist. So we're still going to be doing Dracothist transmutes in 10.2. These are still BOP and tradable only through work orders. You're probably going to be able to make some gold off of public work orders for these. And the Dracothist economy is going to be huge still, right? Engineering gets a new toy, which requires 5 Frosties also. I don't see this being super interesting. And then Verdant Combatant gear pieces. These ones have full versatility, so they might be more desirable if you have engineering. But if I don't foresee these to have particularly large demand. Inscription gets by far the biggest bunch of new recipes. You have a new contract for the Dream Warden's rep. You have a customization for druids, Verdant Combatant trinkets, a new glyph, the new Vantus rune, and 2 new Drake Watcher manuscripts. Jewel crafting gets a new embellishment, the Dream Tender's charm, and the Verdant Combatant pieces for jewel crafting. Leatherworking also gets a new optional reagent embellishment, the Verdant Conduit, and the Verdant Combatant pieces for mail and leather. And then lastly, tailoring also gets a new optional reagent embellishment, the Verdant Tether, and Verdant Combatant pieces for cloth. So those are the recipes. Now we're going to go through all of the where you get all of these, and then we'll talk about which ones I think matter and which ones I don't care so much about. So for enchanting, the new recipes, they are the new crests essentially. These are the only 3 new recipes for enchanting in 10.2. Pretty much 1-to-1 replacements of what we already have, and they drop from the Emerald Dream. From mobs and treasures. I'm assuming this is very similar to how they dropped in 10.1. So just go into the zone, kill stuff, collect treasures, and you'll get these. And they were fairly quick to farm. I got them on day 1 very easily in 10.1. I'm expecting it's going to be the same thing in 10.2. Then we have Inscription, the new contract. You get that from the new world event, World Superbloom. This is essentially the similar takes over for researchers under fire. No idea on the drop rate. You might be unlucky enough to farm for a couple of resets before you get this. This also means that this is going to be available day 1 on the auction house. Pretty much someone is going to be lucky and get this. So hope you get it early and you can make a lot of gold, or you get it late and it's not so important. Then we have 2 new cosmetic recipes, the Mark of the Oryx Dream Stag, which is a customization form for druids. This one drops from the Dream Seed cache. It's a treasure in the Emerald Dream. And then you have the Glyph of the Lunar Chameleon, and this is just sold by Mithrinder in the Emerald Dream, so don't expect this one to be particularly profitable. This one is BOP, so you have to sell it with crafting orders. So this one could be interesting, depending on the drop rate, if this is guaranteed or not. Then we have the Vantus rune, probably the most important economic recipe from Inscription to get. This one also drops from the Dream Seed caches, so you definitely want to get this. And hope you get lucky. This is something that you want to farm as much as possible. Then Inscription has 2 new Drake Watcher manuscript recipes. I don't think these are particularly important. Both are just listed as drops from the Emerald Dream. I've literally never made a profit on these because it's crafting order only. And well, maybe you can find someone who's willing to pay for them, but there's not that many. The last type of item that Inscription has are the Verdant Combatant gear, which of course loads of professions have. What's unique for Inscription is that the recipes are sold by a vendor in Valdrakken for 3 Awakened Ire instead of being dropped from PvP. So they're very cheap, And you can make some gold with these. I've made some gold with the same variants in this patch. Not gonna make a lot, but early on, that's when people might be getting these to just jump into arena. And the recipes are fairly cheap because you can get the Awakened Ire. You can even buy it right now and have a chunk ready to go. It's needed both for the craft and to unlock the recipe, so that's pretty nice. So for alchemy, there's 2 new potions. There's the Dreamwalker's Healing Potion, which you unlock from this one drops from the Emerald Bounty, Plump Dream Seeds. So you need a Plump Dream Seed, which you get from the Super Bloom event, and you can then use it to get a Dream Seed and plant that. Then you have the Potion of Withering Dreams, which is the other new one, which you get from specializations or from doing experimentations. It's essentially a discovery. I don't think any of these potions matter, to be honest. They're just, maybe the Dreamwalker's Healing Potion might be a better potion than the current one. Potion of Withering Dreams just seems extremely bad to me. You heal for a lot and then you take most of the damage back over the next 30 seconds, which seems mostly completely useless. Now for engineering, we have the new toy, the Portable Party Platter, which you unlock by witnessing a display of confectionery conjuration. I haven't been able to figure out what that means. Honestly, I didn't find anything. This one requires a whopping 5 Frosty Souls. So you're either going to be doing crafting orders for this or charging a boatload for farming the Frosty Souls. Honestly, I don't really expect this to be particularly important economically. Then there's also a couple of verdant combatant pieces, but since they require engineering, I don't really see these being particularly important. But these are the normal drop. They're going to drop from PvP, and the recipes are freely tradable on the auction house, so they're going to be pretty expensive early on, and probably just not worth it, to be honest. The engineering ones, I don't expect these to ever be worth it, because you need engineering to wear them. Why would you not just buy the ones that don't require engineering? Blacksmithing does get the only new epic item, new pre-embellished helmet. This seems like a tank or healer, so it's going to be paladins. Maybe it's the other tank classes. The recipe drops from the raid, and it's purchasable on the auction house. So this might be worth picking up if the effect is really strong for tanks and you really want to do crafting orders. But overall, I feel like this probably isn't going to be worth buying on the auction house. And then, of course, you have a full set of new verdant pieces with the standard drops from PvP and tradable on the auction house, so they're probably going to be a little bit expensive early on. So if you can farm any of them, great. Verdant gear does sell, so yeah, it's something to look into. Leatherworking, we're obviously going to get the verdant gear, which is the same as every other profession except inscription. You get them for PvP. They're purchasable on the auction house. Obviously you have a lot of recipes since you have both mail and leather. They're probably going to generate some profit. Not sure if buying the recipes are going to be worth it. Then you also have the Verdant Conduit. This is a new healer type embellishment. This drops from the raid and it's tradable on the auction house. I very much doubt that this recipe will be worth buying. My experience with buying the Shadow Flame Armor patch recipe for a lot of gold in 10.1 did not pan out at all. So if you can get this, then they might sell for some. It's also a healer piece for sure, which means that it's just going to be not that much in demand. There's not as many healers as there are DPS, so generally you always want DPS centric items. That's where a large amount of money is. So Verdant Conduit doesn't quite cut it for me. So tailoring gets another embellishment, the Verdant Tether. This one drops from the raid and it's tradable on the auction house. This is the healing centric one. Your heals have an ability to tether to a friendly ally. Essentially it's only for healers, which means that it's a lot less valuable than it might have been. It also requires Dreaming Essence, which I expect is going to drop from the raid and be similar to Shadow Flame Essence and be pretty expensive. Then tailors also get the cloth Verdant Combatant pieces. Of course, the one advantage that the tailors get is that you get to craft a cloak, which every class in the game can wear. Is generally going to be one of the better recipes to focus on, but probably people are going to know that and it's going to be expensive. These recipes drop from the from PvP and can be traded on the auction house. Jewel crafters also get a optional reagent, the Dream Tender's Charm, which gives you stack and critical strike while you're above 70% health. This doesn't seem particularly good to me, simply because you have to be above 70% health, and if you lose the buff instantly when you go below that, and it takes a while to stack up, then it's unlikely that this is going to be the best option for many players. So I don't think this will see much play. Maybe if there are specs that really value crit, but overall I don't expect this to be the major one. Then obviously we have verdant amulets and rings. This is the best slots, hands down, for verdant combatant gear. They're also generally the most expensive one. Literally every class needs necklaces and rings, and they even need 2 rings, and they're not unique equipped, so you can sell 2 rings. So definitely, if you're looking to get into verdant combatant gear, these are the ones to focus on. So the verdant conduit, the leatherworking optional reagent, embellishment. This one is interesting. Spells and abilities sometimes provide secondary stats. There's not enough information here to go by, but this is the type of effect that's generally extremely strong. Getting secondary stat procs. I mean, the lariat, that's exactly what the elemental lariat did. So it all depends on tuning, which we can't see from the tooltip. I haven't looked at sims yet. This is either going to be really good and everyone will want it, or it's not. If everyone will want this, then the recipe is going to be way too expensive, and you have to hope you get it to drop for you. Margins are probably going to be pretty thin. That's my experience with what happened to the armor patch in 10.1. Margins were very thin really quickly because you're trading this into the region-wide auction house. Definitely a recipe that you potentially can make gold with, but you have to get lucky with the drop or manage to snag it for a really cheap price to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to recoup the recipe cost. So, the one big thing, in my opinion, the biggest thing probably, is the fact that enchanting still uses the Dracothists. So the new crests, they require Dracothists, which means that having a bunch of Dracothist salts is going to be potentially very profitable. It also means that people need to go back to Sarlacc Caverns unless Sarlacc glow spores start dropping from the Emerald Dream. This does seem to be the final form of the PTR, and as far as I've seen, there's no changes to the Dracothist transmute. So yeah, we're going to be limited by Dracothists, and Dracothists might see a supply crunch with the patch, and Dracothist crafting is going to be very relevant. So if you already have alt set up, that's great. If you don't, then you still have time to set one up, or 2, or 3. Depending on how much time you want to sink into it. But yeah, the Dracothist economy is here to stay. It also means that you can probably still yoink some resources with a resourcefulness set on your enchanter. Once you get the recipes, just look for public orders. They're usually up. They're usually, if you spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes refreshing, you can usually find work orders with all the materials included and steal some Dracothist with resourcefulness. The other overall thing I saw is that literally none of the new recipes require renown. So there's no reason to farm renown. That being said, you do need to farm the new events, because there's multiple drops from the Dream Seed caches and from the new events, from the Super Bloom and stuff like that. So you definitely want to get into the new zone. That's going to be very important. Vantus Rune is from the Dream Seed cache, for instance. So maximizing your Dream Seed caches is definitely going to be great, because if you can get the Vantus Rune early, there's going to be way less competition, and you're going to see much higher profit margins than if you're someone who gets this late. The recipe can't be traded either, so you have to get lucky. So definitely time to roll the dice on this one. Now, for the overall look, I think 10.2 just looks like 10.1 repeated. There aren't any significant changes to how professions work, or really to gearing, or anything. In fact, it's slightly less interesting than 10.1. 10.1 gave us Dracothist, which was sort of a new recipe type and something that changed stuff a little bit. This time we're getting some new gear pieces, some new embellishments, which we also got in 10.1. So we got the Shadow Flame patches in 10.1. They sold really well, but the recipe was very expensive. I ended up losing way more gold than I even want to talk about. It definitely was possible to make gold with the Shadow Flame patches. It might be possible to make gold with some of the new optional reagents, but the recipes drop from the raid and are tradable on the auction house. They also require Dreaming Essence, which drops from the raid, which is going to make profits overall probably very thin, if anything. So in general, the way I see 10.2, it's going to be whatever worked in 10.1, whatever worked for you in 10.1, that's going to be what works for you in 10.2 as well. because ultimately at the most basic level, nothing has changed. The same types of recipes. So if you had tons of success doing crafting orders in trade chat in 10.1, then that's what you should do in 10.2. The only thing that might change a little bit is that some people might prefer the new embellishments compared to the old ones, but there aren't any. There's just one new pre-embellished piece, which means that if you the stuff like the lariat is still going to be super relevant. Any of the pre-embellished recipes that you've unlocked previously, they're still going to be relevant, because the only new one is for tanks, and that's a very small group of players compared to DPS. So overall, it's going to be the same. We're going to see obviously a supply surge as more players get into the end game and are willing to, well, they'll get more frequent upgrades, so they need more enchants. They'll die more often in raids, so they need more consumables. But outside of that, there's nothing that changes up the crafting game at all. It's going to be more of the same. So yeah, now you know where all the recipes are and what I think about it. So my final piece of advice: get your Dracothis crafters up if you're lazy like me. That's the best lazy method for 10.2. See you there!